are accusing Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula of slow progress in implementing commuter rail takeovers by municipalities and provincial governments. They say many commuters' lives are affected by the ongoing failure to address the country's dysfunctional rail system. Now, that's not brand new news. Groups are now threatening legal action to take Mbalula to court to hasten the implementation. Zaki Ahmad, well known, of course, civil society coalition. The hashtag is United Behind. Zaki joining us this evening. Hello to you, Zaki, and it's frightening that you and I have to watch the live crossing I just had as well. We're talking about basic service delivery. I mean, the roads are falling apart. Here's the problem, Zaki. Tell me if you agree. If you haven't got roads that are functioning, you would think, well, let's go and use the railway line. But we can't do that either, can we?
Gareth, good evening. You know, the three things government have to get right in 2023 is obviously Eskom. The second thing is Transnet. And the third is PRASA. Because as we speak, every one of those things take money out of people's pockets by not functioning and destroys not only people's livelihoods, but impacts on the economy in the most severe way. Now, our country has had a policy and a law, but a policy since 1996, led by the ANC, that said municipalities, where possible, should take over the running of PRASA. Similarly, it said in 2009, just before the World Cup, we passed a law that said all land transport, which includes rail, ought to be devolved to the lowest possible level. There have been probably about 5 or 6 white papers saying exactly the same thing for more than a decade. So where do we sit today? We sit today, fortunately, and let me not be churlish and say this, that in Cape Town, for the first holiday in a long time, commuters have been able to use the train to get to the beach in Kalk Bay. Now, that is on the southern line, but the most important lines have not been working since late 2017, mid-2018, and that's the line from Mitchell's Plain, from Manenberg, from Nyanga, from Khayelitsha. That line hasn't been working since then, which means that if you're a security guard, you cannot get to work unless you use a taxi or a bus. The taxi costs the most, but it's the most, at the moment, it's the thing that gets you to work. However, that means you're paying an extra 1,000 rand a month to get to work. And in this economic climate, people cannot afford that. So here's what we would like to see. The law also says that every municipality must have a service level agreement done in consultation with PRASA. So it would mean that all three, the major municipalities in Gauteng and all the others where trains go through, should have ensured that PRASA functions in the following way. How many trains there are, how many trains are getting fixed and so on. That hasn't happened. Similarly, in Cape Town, that has never happened. Premier Makura did a fantastic job trying and passing a law to establish an authority where, because in Gauteng, you need to do it at the provincial level. However, that didn't go anywhere. And we know now why that was so. It was because, and is because, of state capture. So PRASA has never had a really good board. There was an attempt at one by Popo Molefe, but he was stopped in his tracks very quickly. The difficulty we have now is that, for instance, the law says there must be 3 people on the board with the experience of business, of running and managing and expertise in running a private sector business. That has never happened.
Is that what you're saying, Zaki? Sorry, forgive me for jumping in, Zaki. So that's what you're saying right now. So you've got a transport minister who either doesn't know what he's doing or hasn't paid attention to it, A. B, are you suggesting the transport minister needs to bring the kind of experts on that you're talking about? Would they, if experts were found, get on top of this problem?
What we would prefer to see is a dissolution of the entire board and a new minister appointed. And I hope President Ramaphosa will take this opportunity when Minister Mbalula is going to Luthuli House to ensure that we have a minister that is capable, that is technically competent, and understands good governance. Because the current board is just as involved in corruption. For instance, the country had 4,500 rail coaches. At the moment, about 1,000 are operating.
Yeah.
For a long time, since at least 2006, the maintenance contracts for those coaches have been corrupt. They were suddenly stopped in 2019, correctly, but without a plan to have an alternative in place. That means that until this year, an alternative wasn't in place. But what did we discover in October? The contract to maintain the coaches was again corrupt. PRASA appointed, with ministerial permission, it would seem, a company that they themselves have found to be corrupt. So the difficulty is that, and we can bring lines like the Southern Line back. We can bring back the line like the Mabopane and Shoshanguve. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that will go down again unless we sort out the governance and the management. PRASA has had seven acting CEOs in 5 years. Now, I mean,
it's astonishing.
We can talk about that, but
I mean, it's really worrying when you think about that number of people involved at the highest levels of PRASA, all sitting under one minister, actually, since all those years ago. Let me ask you, Zaki, time is against me, forgive me, you and I could talk all night. We are expecting some kind of cabinet reshuffle. I'll ask you the same question everyone's asking about Andre de Ruyter. We changed the minister in this case. Is that going to fix the problem? Ramaphosa, the president, is going to have to change potentially those ministers in charge. Is Fikile Mbalula still the right person if he can do the job, or do we get rid of him?
Fikile Mbalula should never have been a minister. We've got a complaint at Parliament against him, in which we asked that he be suspended and expelled from Parliament. So I'd like it to happen through the president sending him to Luthuli House instead of us waiting. I stand with Andre de Ruyter. I think we need more Andre de Ruyters, not less. And PRASA has not had a genuine group CEO with courage. Its head of legal, Martha Ngoyi, is suspended because she's a whistleblower. And if it hadn't been for her, we wouldn't know 90% of the things that went wrong at PRASA.
When are you going to court with this, Zaki? When are you going to court?
What we're looking at is going to court early in the new year. So hopefully by the end of January, our court case would be launched, whether it's this minister or the next, because the question is systemic. It is not a question of a minister or not a minister. It would help to have a good minister who understands technology and understands management and also understands what they can or can't do in terms of governance. So that is necessary. We're not going to court to dismiss the minister. We're going to court to ensure that PRASA is devolved to the Gauteng government and also to the city of Cape Town. Mbalula hasn't responded once to letters from the mayor of the city of Cape Town. How arrogant and can you get when a mayor in the city approaches you and says, we're going to devolve, and you stand up in Parliament and you say, yes, they're going to devolve, it's a good thing, but you don't set up a task team. And you said, maybe we'll get there in 2025, 2027. We can't wait that long.
And commuters of South Africa can't wait that long, Zaki. It's people's jobs. It's the safety, it's the jobs of commuters. I love the idea of you using a security guard trying to go to work. That security guard could lose their jobs if they can't afford to actually get to the job that's paying them the money to get to the job. And you can see where I'm going with this. Zaki Ahmed, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Hashtag Unite Behind Director. Zaki Ahmed joining us here on ENCA.